Thank you. Thank you so much. I just our doctor reached out to me, about 6 hours ago. We had a sleepless night and he asked if I would speak. And well, I went to bed after saying yes and I woke up. This is Mountain Time, US, so it's 7:30 a.m. What time are you in? You could put that in the chats. And I also want to know, where are you from? I imagine this is an international audience. I welcome you. Good evening, good afternoon, good night, good morning. And I'd love to hear what the weather is like where you're at. It is very windy in Denver, Colorado. It's springtime. We had snow 2 weeks ago. So this is what Colorado weather is about. I also want to know how many of you are older than 50. I'm in my 60s. The topic today is how to reinvent yourself. I'll tell you about my journey in a moment. And I also want to know how many of you are still working outside of the home. I ask these questions because life is a journey, isn't it? And we learn every day. I went to college. I grew up in the Chicago area. I went to college in St. Louis. I moved to start my career in Seattle, Washington, when a little company by the name of Microsoft was beginning. And I didn't work for them. I worked in banking and finance. And then I moved into human resources at a major university. There were 17,000 employees that I took care of as far as hire, fire, and disability accommodation. And it was a joy. It was a real joy. Then I had 2 children. I married. I had 2 children, bought a house, did those things that my parents expected in the proper sequence. And I will never forget a Halloween in the US here where we put on costumes. I assume you all have Halloweens of some kind or another. And so the children were dressing up and we were invited to a neighborhood party. And here I'm working. Ooh, somebody's on live. You better mute because we're getting some feedback. Thank you so much. So here I am working and my husband's working and the girls were stuck in daycare. They were the last ones to be picked up and that meant we had to pay extra and we missed the party. So I broke down in tears. I'm a lousy mom. I'm awful because of course we as women put it upon ourselves as being the only problem. And so it was about New Year's that year, 1999, that at a New Year's party, I looked at my husband and I said, I can't do this anymore. Your career is skyrocketing. Mine's going this way. Why did we even have children? So I quit my job and I became a volunteer. You could see from my CV, a volunteer in the community of a suburb of Seattle. And I also was appointed by our city council, a city of about 55,000 people. I was appointed to their planning commission. So I was even tapped to run for city council, but I'm more of a policy person. It got really dirty, having to sell your stuff, ugh. No, it wasn't for me. So look at my point in being here, and I do thank Doctor again for having me. My point today is that we are always reinventing ourselves and we always have to learn. And I taught my daughters this. One is a surgeon in California. The other is an electrical engineer, a project manager in Manhattan. I miss them dearly. You'll see on my LinkedIn profile. But this is what I did. I moved away from my house. My birth family. My mom is 95. She still says, "When are you coming home?" It's like, oh God, Mom, you're never happy for me, really. But that's a whole other podcast. All right. So Seattle was a wonderful community, by the way. And for all of you in India, my goodness, the rich cultural things that I was exposed to, the food, the scents, your reverence for gold. Oh my God. And this is an affluent community where many Indian descent were there on H1B visas. for Amazon and Microsoft, and came with a lot of wealth. And anyway, a friend of mine had to tell her neighbors, lock your door. They weren't locking their doors and they were getting robbed because everybody knew the Indian community had a lot of gold. And it was just because you come from a big city in India, you can't come to the Seattle suburbs and expect people not to take advantage of your open door. So I'm digressing. How do we reinvent ourselves? I mean, I'm in my 60s, as I say. I divorced my husband. I left him of 30 years. I still get a little upset by that. We had grown apart. There wasn't divorce in my family per se. And I broke his heart. I was alone. All our family and friends disowned me, including my own birth family, who loved my ex-husband. So now I'm homeless in my Audi. Okay, don't feel sorry for me. I'm staying in Hilton hotels, no problem. But along the way, I had to figure out, what am I doing with the rest of my life? Part of the reason I left the Seattle area, one, the weather, but two, I felt like I had no purpose. I had raised my daughters. I was a volunteer in the community, but I felt old. And my hair was graying. I had not as much energy as I used to. What is my purpose in life? I'm a spiritual person, but I even grew away from God. I felt like insignificant. And my ex-husband didn't do much. I mean, he's an electrical engineer. Okay, so he's very focused on running his company. And I love him. And I wish him nothing but the best. But during the divorce, we had an amicable split. My daughters don't talk to me much because I left their dad. I thought divorcing when my kids were adults was going to be easier. And I probably should have left them when they were little, because the ramifications for me and my family are huge. So I'm still trying, with the help of therapy, I'm still trying to build that up. But oh my gosh, you guys, I have so much I want to tell you about reinventing yourself. Use LinkedIn. Many people my age, in fact, just on a webinar last night, I sat in my jammies all day and watched webinars and participated. But on a webinar last night, somebody said, do not join social media. And it was like, what? No, I understand. I don't like Facebook. That's an old person's thing. LinkedIn and Instagram have been invaluable to me. Don't be intimidated. It does take a while, and Doctor can speak to this too, if you would add in your perspective. I think LinkedIn, it just takes a while to establish your contacts. It takes a while for the algorithms to figure out what you're interested in. I got creepy messages, Doctor, from men who said they were U.S. soldiers in Syria. And the next thing you know, they're asking me for money. So be very, very cautious. You delete and block. Doctor, will you speak to the LinkedIn factor? Uh-oh, do you hear me? So what suggestions do you have for people joining LinkedIn for the first time? Right. Good point. I see we have a question there. I'll have Doctor moderate these things if you would. In one moment, I will get to an open forum. Let's see, we're looking at 7:40 my time. So let me talk for another 5 minutes. One thing you have to take care of is yourself. My cough, my health has suffered. I bought a house. I sold a house. I broke up a 4-year relationship with a younger man. Who was a narcissist. And again, that's yet another topic for another time. Um, my self-confidence was blown. I felt worthless. I have a pattern in my life. I mean, my mother was a narcissist, my ex-husband was a narcissist, so I attract that kind of energy. I went to church. I'm still on a spiritual journey of trying to figure out where I'm going to fall with the universe, with God, with the Holy Spirit. Somebody's phone is ringing. Pick it up. um, and I went to church, and it was really interesting to have a pastor who had a beautiful voice and a beautiful sermon from First Corinthians, which his message was basically get out there, serve the Lord, shut up, stop staring at your navel. People are in need around the world. So after the church service, I went up and I gave him a big hug and I said, I don't know you. You touched me so deeply. I'm in tears. Gave him a little bit of my background. And then he said, Nancy, God has never left you. Oh, we get teary eyed. God has always been protecting you. The thing is, evil in the form of your ex-boyfriend was trying to get in and trying to tear you down. And oh, that hit so hard, you guys. I was a puddle. And then it took me 2 days of trying to separate myself. One thing I did that I would recommend for everyone, look at your contacts, go on your phone, look at all your contacts. One at a time, call up the profile and ask yourself, does this person love me? Does this person add value in my life? Is this a partnership or is this a relationship of using? Do you know that everybody associated with my ex-boyfriend, I deleted and blocked, including his parents, because it's toxic. And there are whole Instagram feeds about toxicity. Look into it because it's unhealthy. It drags you down. It makes you feel so worthless. So that pastor really widened my eyes as far as what I can do. Funny thing is, I go to the store now, and I talked to a therapist yesterday about this on one webinar. I go to the store now, and I'm very aggressive if I don't get good service. It's like I was at a wine store buying a nice bottle for a friend. I was going to spend a lot of US dollars, okay? And this one person was not paying attention to me. He was almost inconvenienced. And I looked at him and I said, you know what? I'm going to find somebody who can give me better customer service. And he said, well, you have an attitude, lady. The therapist the other day told me, she goes, you're taking your aggression from your ex-boyfriend and you're putting it on other people. Try to rein that in and understand where it's rooted in. You are angry, you are lashing out, and you need to channel it more in a more healthy way. So let's see, 7:43, the time is flying. So social media is very important. Self-care. This cough has been lingering. We live mile high. It's high desert in Denver. There is no humidity, like none. It never rains. It is so dry. Everybody wants to use humidifiers. In Seattle, we used a dehumidifier to take the moisture out of the air. There's no mold here. If anything, it's just hard to grow plants. You got to have desert plants. So this is a dry cough. I don't sleep well. I'm not eating well. However, the last couple days, God has laid his hands on me to say, you're okay, and you're going to get through this. So I'm going to take a break here and ask the doctor if he has anything to add. Maybe not. Hello. I have just about wrapped it up so we can have some open forum here.
Good evening, Dr. Bedkar, sir, and I think it is good morning for you, ma'am, over there. Wonderful session you have said. It was not just information what you are giving or some knowledge you are giving, but I think you have placed your own life journey. And through your life journey, there are lot many things to learn. And what is very important to learn is how to get up again, how to set up again, how to stand again. That is what you have learned in your life. And I think nowadays we are dealing with the psychiatry and psychology, and we have to be very careful about this aspect. Yes, definitely people lost their hopes and lost their confidence and lost their confidence among themselves, and that is how they really they get. Uh, Hello, am I audible? Am I audible?
Yeah, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir.
Yeah, yeah. There was some little disturbance. Okay, so now what I feel, that what you have said and how you have developed yourself into this. Yeah, yeah, I'm getting some call from a patient. So I belong to medical field, ma'am, and that is how usually we are getting calls from the various patients and other things. Sorry. So I think a lot many things to learn from you, and you have developed your career into human resource and the human relations. I think so. You have developed with your own experience. That is more. That matters more rather than someone just reading text or developing skills and then practicing. I think that is a one way to learn by oneself. That is a life lessons what we can call it as. So thank you very much for your wonderful explanation and expressions. And my question is, some people without much experience start their business and they land into some kind of such a this. I think they somewhere they are lacking this kind of aspect. What do you think about this? The reality, the life reality they have not faced, and still they are in a business. And sometimes they may mislead others with this. So what do you think about this? Thank you.
Oh, thank you, doctor. I'm honored you're here and participating. I want to hear what kind of doctor you are. My daughter is a surgeon. She's in her residency. She just did night shift pediatric surgery. Oh my God, miserable, miserable. But she's done with that and now back in the medical center with general surgery, day shift. Thank goodness. Maybe I'll talk to her one day because I haven't talked to her in ages. What do I feel about that? I think we as women in particular don't give ourselves credit. We don't see ourselves as being valuable. We don't know if we can learn and start over again. And I think we do ourselves a tremendous disservice, especially as mothers. As a mother of two daughters, I want to show strength. I want to show leadership. And when I'm weak and I'm diminished, it's not a good example, folks. So give yourself some credit. I do have to say, I saw a life coach about 10 years ago. She was very expensive. Oh, that was part of the end of my marriage because I spent like $3,000 on this life coach. But we met once a week for like 3-hour sessions, and I would cry my eyes out. And I ended up starting a nonprofit with her assistants called Eastside Youth Forum. There might be a Facebook page still there. The bottom line is I started it because kids in our community were dying of fentanyl overdoses and opioid overdoses, suicidal ideation, cutting, awful things. And this is an affluent community. So, doctor, you probably know you're not going to get families to talk about it. It's hidden. In fact, there was a drunk driving accident. A young boy who had just gotten a race car for his birthday, give me a break. He crashed, ejected into a house, and died on the scene. And do you know that they did not publish the funeral? They did not acknowledge that there were problems here. And I was devastated at more the reaction to his death than anything else because it was swept under the rug. I went to the scene of the accident and there was a cross there and kids were crying, but the notes on the cross said things like, way to go, dude. I'm doing a shot for you tonight, dude. It's like ridiculous. And so I did this East Side Youth Forum in a suburb. I rented the conference room or conference center and had breakout sessions, had paramedics and first responders, had social workers, had police chiefs, and it got great publicity. And the newspaper article of me on the podium looked fabulous, but there were probably 20 people in the audience, including the reporter and including all my speakers. So I had bought all this food, and I promoted it as much as I can. My mistake there, and for all of you entrepreneurs, is you can't do it by yourself. I held on to this. I wouldn't ask for help. I'm a girl. It's like, I can't ask her to put together this and go to the copy store. I can't ask people to show up 3 hours in advance to set up the rooms. It was a mess. But lessons learned, that's what you do. We all make mistakes. We have to be gentle on ourselves. And the bottom line is, my therapist at the time said, there's nothing you could do to save any lives. These kids are going to die. And it's killing you, Nancy. So I backed away from that and then resumed my activity in the city on the Planning Commission. So we have other questions too. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Good morning, Nancy, ma'am. This is Dr. Ahmed from India, Hyderabad. It was very, astonishing, a very story of yours. Really inspired me, and as a woman, you had a wonderful journey, and having gone through such a phases of life, still you are such a courageous ma'am. Really, it's really, as a men also, we really learn a lot from your. Though it's a brief presentation, but it's a very, very powerful presentation. As my personally, I have learned a lot how to lead a life in a precarious conditions, in different conditions. That's great. The thing is that as you are expert of human resources, and how we really, as a human resource, irrespective of the gender, how can really we can make our personality, very courageous personality, very bold personality. Having said you that you have faced many things in your life, many different situations you came across, but still today you are very confident. So can you just suggest us how to really overcome such things? Thank you so much.
You're too kind. You're too kind. Really, I'm a very humble person. My family's from Finland. I'm not supposed to have an ego. I'm not supposed to think. There's a choice given. You come into my office, you messed up. You gave the wrong drug to a patient. I was working for a medical center. The union rep would be there representing the nurse, and I would present two options. You can quit and I'll give you a good recommendation, or you will be fired right now. So I'll walk out of the room and you can talk with your union rep as to what to do. My ex-husband did the same thing when he ran an aerospace company, not Boeing, but a supplier of Boeing. He would have a heart-to-heart in private and make that person decide what they're going to do, as opposed to being the big bad employer. Also, I had to reprimand the doctors, and the managers, the nurse managers, who would come into my office and say, I want him fired today. And it's like, okay, we're going to start with progressive discipline. Here's what we expect of your behavior or your performance on the job. You have a bad attitude. Here's what we do to correct that. And the doctor or nurse manager would say, absolutely not. In my operating room, I need top-notch people immediately. And then I'm like, well, what kind of review did you give them the last time? Oh, she got a raise, or he got a stellar review. I said, you're screwed. You can't do that. Okay, maybe something's going on in their lives, but you're going to have to stop with the kudos and step back and make sure that you are giving the proper feedback. Doctors and lawyers are very reticent to do that. They don't want to hurt feelings. They also don't want to be involved in HR matters, but you're intimately involved. You're the first line people who see what's going on in the OR. And without that feedback, I cannot just fire someone. We will have a union grievance. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, now if you find such people like your HR position, and there will be hardly you find any industrial unrest or management unrest. Thank you so much. Wonderful answer from your side.
Nancy, hi, Nancy. I just want to share that I am very happy to hear your talk. You are very brave, strong, and your talk is very, very influential. I just want to tell you that I'm 83 years old and I'm still working. And I'm blessed. So we have to stay strong, healthy, and keep helping the world. Link is the best social media for my life. You guys are great. Thank you. Thank
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.